This is just for my own documentation, but today I am working with a radical AI rig that's supposed to use a webcam to map onto an avatar. So I'm taking one of my non-player Mozilla Hubs rigs, scrapping that and seeing if I can reparent everything to the new FBX rig for Radical. This is one of those situations where I've taken way too much time to do it the wrong way, and now I just want to give myself some documentation for how to correctly do it and what I figured out, so that when I need to do this again inevitably, I don't waste a lot more time. Okay, future Brendan, let's do this. Okay, so just so I can remember what I did, I am working with my Mozilla Hubs avatars, which really only work with heads and hands, and so they have these disconnected bodies, and the rig obviously is a completely separate rig. It's for a GLTF instead of an FBX. So I'll bring in my model and get rid of the rig that we're not going to use. Make sure that that armature is gone. Now I will bring in the Radical rig, which is an FBX rig, in its little T-pose. Perfect. So the first thing I did was just try to kind of line these two up and then merge them so that they would parent basically the armature to kind of a general meta rig. An important first step is to delete all the old vector groups of the Mozilla animation, because we're going to need new vector groups for this rig. So I'll highlight the mesh first, the rig second, and go to parent with empty objects. This is going to give me those vector groups according to the naming convention of the Radical rig. Now what I need to do is go in and take all these disconnected mesh pieces and assign them to the vector groups of the Radical rig so they will move appropriately. So in edit mode, I use my little C or color tool to be able to highlight the faces of the mesh that I want to assign to a specific vector. I can also use the lasso tool or just go vertex by vertex, but the color mode is kind of my friend. I just need to make sure I don't highlight the wrong part. And then I go find the correct corresponding vector group or bone and assign this selected area to that bone. Now when I switch back to the rig and go into pose mode, I can grab the bone and move it around. This threw me because that's the forearm, not the shoulder, and I assigned it to the shoulder. So I have to go find the shoulder. So I go find the shoulder, and now it will follow that path. I also found that when I was in pose mode, I could right click to rename and not rename the bone because that will mess it all up, but I can at least get the name of what that bone is called so I can make sure I am parenting to the correct vector group. Now we're going to speed up and just go through the entire process of me independently selecting the appropriate meshes and assigning them to the corresponding vector group. I also did a little bit of reconfiguring of I also reconfigured the rig slightly to line up the bones more appropriately with my model. Now I can test it out by highlighting or selecting a specific bone, a specific vector group, and then in pose mode, testing how the model responds. So the head works. Click on the hips to move the torso. Yep. This is weird because this guy just has like a tail instead of two legs, but I've assigned everything to the left leg. So it'll probably respond a little weird, but good enough for my test today. Great, now I believe I just export that as a FBX model of its own, and it should be good to test.